Hey guys, this is Matt NES, and I love fighting games a lot. And I thought that I would tell you guys what some of my favorite fighting games of all time are. The inspiration for today's video comes from Happy Console Gamer. I want to say a couple weeks ago he put up his top 10 fighting games of all time, and I thought I would do the same. So why don't we check out some of my favorite fighting games of all time? Let's check it out. So throughout the course of this video, instead of having a giant list of honorable mentions, I think I want to list my honorable mentions as they come up throughout the video. You'll see what I mean when we get to that. So for my first honorable mention, I want to list off games like Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, you know, games that a lot of people would consider as anime fighters. I really like their mechanics, I really like their fast-paced action, but the one that I will always come back to as my favorite anime fighter, and the one that I feel like really started off the genre, is this game right here, is Darkstalkers 3. Or Darkstalkers in general. Darkstalkers 3 being my favorite in the entire series. I've really always loved the character design in this game, the over-the-top facial and attack animations with this game, just the ridiculous kind of characters they come up with, like, you know, John Talbane, the nunchuck-wielding kung fu werewolf, BB Hood, your Little Red Riding Hood parody who has a machine gun and grenades and like a railgun and stuff. It's just great. I love it so much. And this is a series that Capcom has not really done anything with for the longest time. They brought out a compilation a couple years back and kind of didn't advertise it at all, and kind of just let it die on one of the eShops that were out back during the day on XBLA and PSN. And they've come out and said, well, that game didn't sell very well, that reboot that we did didn't sell, so, you know, we're kind of shelving the series. And I feel like that's really unfair, and I think anime fighters like this one would succeed today. And I would absolutely love to see another game in this series, very, very much. Next up, we have kind of a pseudo-anime fighter, even though it was made over here in the United States. It at least has the look and feel of an anime fighter. The indie-made Skullgirls. This is a really, really fun game. This is like Darkstalkers if it were even more bizarre. You have detachable headless cat girls. You have a girl with like a giant squid monster on top of her head. You have like a girl with a robotic set of arms for a hat. Like, it's ridiculous, and I love every single bit about it. I definitely love the freeform combo system, and the ability to detect whenever an infant combo is being performed, and shutting that stuff down so the game doesn't become like a, you know, touch you once and you die sort of thing. I love that you can make this game either a 3-on-3 fighter or a 2-base fighter or just a 1-on-1 fighter, whatever you decide to do. And you can even like mix and match that. One person could have just one super strong fighter and the other person could have 3 different members on one team. And I think this game is fantastic in all regards. Even the story mode, with it being fully voiced in both English and Japanese, even though this game was a Western-made game, they decided to have a fully voiced Japanese cast, which I think is kind of hilarious. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite indie fighter game of all time, for sure. So next up, I have the Samurai Shodown Anthology. Don't worry, I'm not really cheating here in saying that the entirety of the Samurai Shodown series is my favorite, although I do love the series quite a bit, but I'm just kind of using this as a representation for the game that I want to pick from here, because Neo Geo games are incredibly expensive. I wish I owned this game, but I'm not made of money, unfortunately. But the game that I pick from this collection right here has to be Samurai Shodown 2. I feel like the second game in the series is when it really hit its stride. It added a lot more characters, it sped the game up considerably. The music and the backgrounds and the animations just felt so much better in a lot of different ways. And while I do like a lot of the other games later on in the series, I feel like they kind of did a lot of really weird ideas that went off the rails a little bit. And I just keep coming back to the most when it comes to this disc. Like, I'll definitely, play some of the other games in the series if I have friends over that want to play things other than 2. But for me personally, I'm always going to come back to Samurai Showdown 2 as my favorite in the entire series. And that's even including the reboot, honestly. So my next game might be a little bit of a controversial one, but again, I'm going to remind you that this is my list and not yours. And if you don't like it, tell me down in the comment section down below. I know one of my viewers in particular are going to lose their mind when they see this. Shoutouts to Clueless from the Disrespected Club. But yes, one of my favorite fighting games of all time is Pokken Tournament DX. I played the original version on the Wii, and I remember liking it, but I remember thinking that there was a lot of weird design flaws with this game, especially when it comes to local play. Having that split screen stuff happen between the gamepad and having the frame rate be cut in half, I felt like was a thing that really hindered the game quite a bit. But this version fixed a lot of different issues that I had with the game. It added a whole new slew of characters, and it really got me to see like how interesting and deep of a game that it would originally seem to be when you would first turn it on and play it. The phase shifting mechanic adds a lot of unique strategy to the game that you wouldn't initially first think is there, but there's definitely a reason to go between the two different phases. And I like the fact that there are some fighters that are stronger in certain phases than others. And I feel like that this game highlights some of the best aspects of both a 2D fighter and arena fighter at the same time. I used to think that arena fighters weren't really my favorite, but weirdly enough, combining the two different genres of fighters together into one game like really makes for an interesting experience as a whole. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite fighting games of all time, and plus it has Pokemon in it as a thing. Like it's just great. I love the theming. I love the addition of like Tekken-like mechanics, and it definitely does have that like slow, methodical feeling of like a Tekken game or something like that. And this is a game that I definitely come back to quite a bit, and I will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. So yeah, definitely one of my favorites. Now, Samurai Showdown might be my favorite 2D weapon-based fighter, but I think my favorite weapon fighter of all time has to be this game right here, Soul Calibur 2. Now, I know there's a lot of people who really prefer the first game in the series, but I feel like this game, the second game in the series, was the one that really hit its stride. I remember back at my local community college, there would be a group of people who would play a bunch of fighting games, and this is the one that came up in the rotation the most. There was a large group of people who were trying to get better at this game. I was definitely close to the bottom, honestly, but, I still tried, I still took my lumps, and I still really, really like this game quite a bit. Of course, this is the PS2 version. A lot of people love the GameCube version. This is just the version that I ended up picking. I did have a GameCube back in the day, but I just preferred the controls on the PS2 over the GameCube because it has that nice big thick D-pad. I know there was a way to, do an adapter for it, but I just never bothered with that stuff back in the day. And this is the game that actually kicked off the tradition of having guest fighters in the series. This one has Heihachi, which is probably the least overwhelming character that's in the series, but I do like the fact that you can play as Link in the GameCube version, but man, I did not like that D-pad. That was the ultimate decision for getting this version. But that is super cool that Link is a playable character in Soul Calibur. And while I do like a lot of the other games in the series, I just don't feel like they quite hit the same kind of stride as this game did. I definitely really like Soul Calibur 4 and Soul Calibur 6, but this will always be my favorite. But if we're talking about a fighting game with crossover characters, this game has no rival at all. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This game right here, like, I never thought that I would ever get a chance to have matchups like Ken versus Luigi, or Mega Man versus Banjo-Kazooie, but it's here. It's all here, and it's mind-blowing, like, the stuff that you can do in this game. A lot of people wonder if this game even counts as a fighting game, and yes it does. Like, it's been featured at EVO for like the past like 5 years or so, and it has such a huge competitive background with it. It's like I don't even understand why this is even a debate anymore if this is a fighting game or not. It's just a different genre of fighting game. That's what it comes down to. I would have put Smash 4 on this list instead of this one, but like there's just so much more content in this game, so many more levels, so many more characters, so many more game worlds coming together in one package. Like this is there's no contest that this is the best Super Smash Bros. Game of all time. And I know there's a lot of Melee fans out there that want to disagree with me, and they can honestly bite me. Really, yeah. This is the best game. In my opinion. No, but seriously, I love this game quite a bit. Although, as great as Super Smash Bros. Is when it comes to its sheer amount of star power, I still prefer traditional fighters over anything else. And honestly, this game right here, when it comes to both star power and it being like fast-paced traditional fighting game action, this has got to be my favorite. Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Though honestly, we'll probably never get to see any of these characters in Smash Bros. And it's really awesome to see these legendary Marvel superheroes going up against, you know, Capcom's finest, like Ryu from Street Fighter, or Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins, or Firebrand going up against, you know, all these guys. And it's got this incredibly fast action team-based fighter. I love it. I think it's great. And a lot of people would say that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is their favorite in the series. I don't know, man. I think this game steps it up a little bit, especially when it comes to some of the star power they put into this game. Like, come on. Marvel doesn't have Deadpool, and everything's better with Deadpool. A lot of people want to say that this game is broken and unbalanced, but Marvel 2 is also broken and unbalanced. So, you know, are you going to hate one game over the other? I wouldn't. And I will say that Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was such a huge disappointment. And it's kind of weird that this game is like more aesthetically pleasing to look at than the current gen 1080p, you know, wow, super graphics versions of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. But that's just the kind of art style they decided to go for, and having Chun-Li have super Ugg face, I guess. But yes, this is definitely my favorite team-based fighter of all time, and I will still bring this out as often as I possibly can whenever I have company over or whatever. Like, I still love this game to this day. So I'm going to list off a few more honorable mentions because I love way too many Mortal Kombat games, and I had to think really hard and long about which game I was going to put on my list. I was originally going to go with Mortal Kombat 2, but when I really thought about it, it's kind of bare bones, and it's kind of a really basic fighter. There's not really any combos to speak of. It's got very simple mechanics. I love the aesthetic, and I love all the fatalities and the characters in that game, but you know, it's definitely an honorable mention, but it's not my number one. I was also briefly considering giving that title to Mortal Kombat 11. I know it just came out this year, and I know I didn't really spend a whole lot of time with it, but I really do feel like that it's the best that competitive Mortal Kombat has ever felt. I think that this game eclipses Mortal Kombat 9 as my favorite modern Mortal Kombat. But after thinking about it some more, there's still one more game that I feel like is above this one. So again, honorable mention goes to Mortal Kombat 11. But at the end of the day, I have to give it to this game right here, Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Now, unlike what the title might suggest of it just being like, you know, the 3 first Mortal Kombat games slapped on as a bunch of ports onto a disc, this is actually a port of Mortal Kombat 3 with every single Mortal Kombat character that's ever existed up to this point on one disc, and using the Mortal Kombat 3 engine. I'm not saying that this game is balanced. I'm not saying that this game is fair. I'm saying this is like the most fun that I could ever have for a Mortal Kombat system. It has a combo system. It definitely feels like it's a little bit more advanced than Mortal Kombat 2 in a lot of different ways. And you have access to every character right off the bat. No cheat codes, no unlocking, nothing. You can go into arcade mode and just select Motaro and just own everyone if you wanted to. And that's just the most incredibly satisfying feeling ever with this game. I just love this game to pieces. There's an incredible amount of finishing moves and babalities, friendships, animalities, brutalities. Like, there's so many different finishing moves in this game. It's unreal. I can't express in words how much I love this game. It's like having a giant bucket of action figures and like smashing them up against each other, and it's just that pure joy that you get from having something like that. It's just fantastic. I love this game so much, even though it might be a little bit unbalanced and broken in a lot of ways. This isn't just one of my favorite fighting games of all time, but I think this is probably like top 3 favorite PlayStation 1 games for me. I was introduced to the series after selling my drum set. Yes, I used to play drums as a kid because I wanted to be like my cool older brother who, was in a rock band and stuff like that, and I wanted to be like him, and I realized that wasn't really my thing. So I traded my drum set to my brother's friend, weirdly enough, and he gave me a stack of PlayStation 1 games, and one of them was the original Tekken. And after that point, I fell in love with the series, and I got into Tekken kind of late. And when I got that first that copy of Tekken 1, this game right here was just about to be released, and man, what a huge step up from the original Tekken series. I'll say that much, man. The fact that this game runs this smoothly at 60 frames per second in like 1997 or whenever this game ended up coming out, and just the bright, colorful visuals in this game. This game was so vivid and expressive for its time, and it still looks, not that aged today. Like, I could still play this game no problem and not have too much issues with the visuals. I still play most Tekken releases that come out. I'm really a huge fan of Tekken 7. But man, like, it's not just me who will like say like, hey, we should play Tekken 3. I have friends that come over and, look at my collection and go, hey, do you have Tekken 3? We should totally play that. So I must not be alone in thinking that this is easily like the best game in the series. Like, I would love to see just an HD remaster, just better textures, better character models, but keep all the same moves, keep all the same stages, keep the feel, all the same music, but just a remastered version of this game. And I would buy that up in a heartbeat. Add online multiplayer. Oh my god, please Namco, do that. Do that thing that I said. But there is still one more game that I have to talk about. I love this game to pieces. But we got one more. Okay, guys. This isn't just my favorite fighting game of all time. This isn't just one of my favorite PlayStation games. But this is, in my opinion, one of my favorite games of all time. Ultra Street Fighter 4. Again, I could give a bunch of honorable mentions to a bunch of other Street Fighter games, like 2, Alpha 3, Third Strike, just like a bunch of other games in the series. But this is, bar none, my favorite game of all time. In the series, favorite fighting game, number 1, no question. Whenever I see an arcade cabinet of this game, I make sure to try and go over and drop a few quarters into it. Whenever I see people playing this at a party, I have to play this game. Anytime I have fighting game fans over at my house, this is the game that I will always say, like, hey, let's play a few rounds of this. This, in my opinion, when this game came out, was the perfect marriage between old school feel and themes with modern visuals and modern gameplay mechanics and stuff like that. I bought every single version of this game as it was coming out. I have the 3DS version. Hell, if they decided to port this over to Switch, just because I have other friends who also play Street Fighter 4 on Switch, I would rebuy this game again. No joke. I heard that during the development of this game, they tried to make sure to get the exact feel of Street Fighter 2 as possible in a modern context. And I think they absolutely delivered on that. And I don't really feel like they did that with Street Fighter V, and ultimately I feel like that's one of the many things that it does that makes it kind of a lesser experience in my opinion. I was so excited for Street Fighter V, and I was let down. But hey, I still have this game to play, so I'm not too upset, you know what I mean? I feel like this is a celebration of all things Street Fighter. It has every single character from Street Fighter 2. It has a bunch of alpha characters, Third Strike characters. You know, it has a bunch of brand new characters that really just fit into the mold of Street Fighter and became super memorable, like Rufus and Jerry Han and stuff like that. Honestly, guys, I could sit here and gush for another hour, no joke, about how much I love this game. But I have to cut myself off here. I have to do it. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep rambling on and on and on. So, yes, Street Fighter 4 is my all-time favorite fighting game of all time. And it's going to be real tough to dethrone this one, I'll tell you. And that was my list for my favorite fighting games of all time. I know there were maybe a couple controversial picks on that list, so why don't you let me know down in the comments section if you disagree with me, or if you agree with me on some of them. And if you disagree, why don't you tell me what your favorite fighting games are? And as always, if you guys made it this far and you're not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also that bell icon to be notified of future videos. And if you want to help out the channel even more, maybe consider leaving a like as well. Maybe consider following me on Twitter at the 8BitMattNES. But most importantly, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you later. Take care.